This is the first print of the audio fairing, the audio bicycle fairing. The first iteration of the prototype bottom mount. This one was produced in 3D printed in ABS. And the reason that ABS is not the best choice and why I abandoned the ABS for the purpose is because it warps. Once treated with acetone, which is the only way ABS really has any really consistent flexibility, strength, impact resistance, is by treating with acetone. And of course it looks much better, much glossier, shinier, as you can see from the surface. It is far more, the surface is far more better, and you don't have to use, if you don't want to, you don't have to use any body fillers. But the problem is it warps once the acetone treatment hits it, and I will show you the other way. It this edge has to be flat, flush, in order to mount with the upper half of the fairing. The problem is, like I said, it warped terribly once it cured, and it shrinks a lot too. That's another thing, another inconsistency, which could be tolerated, because both halves would shrink, but the problem is that it warps severely. So now, like I said, this was the first iteration. I will show you the other iteration that I tried, and I abandoned ABS, like I said, because of the warping. But I did like the fact that it's nice and flexible once you treat it, so the clamps clamp around the fork tubes without an issue. Here's the next iteration. PETG, and I did it in a transparent form because initially I wanted the bottom section to have lighting effects go past through it so it could be visible to other persons, of course, while you're riding, and which of course would add safety. But there's a serious problem I learned the hard way. The clamp sections, look where the paint permeated the material, and as soon as I tried to clamp it onto the fork tubes, it just broke off, just snapped loose. It caused deterioration, and it could be because of the type of paint, I don't know, but of course after that, that is why I abandoned the the idea of painting on the this is PETG, and why I abandoned the painting on the surface, because once you paint on it, at least maybe because it was the Rust-Oleum 2X enamel paint, I don't know if it's the enamel based paint, but it caused it to become brittle and just crack as soon as I tried to mount it onto the fork tubes of the bicycle. And you can, like I said, you can see where the paint permeated. Now, if there's another paint that is made that would not be so acidic and so, has such a nasty effect on the PETG, then I would say go ahead and do it. And I did a lot of sanding on this also before I painted it. But like I said, I abandoned this, and now I'll show you the final iteration that I've decided to go with. This is also PETG, just straight black, and I haven't painted it, and I'm not going to paint it because the painting makes it the surface brittle, as I said. So and of course you can paint it in other places. I just decided just to keep it simple. I've already spent multiple months and weeks and hours trying to get the, where it would be right, where it would not be brittle, where it would also be strong enough. This was also printed with the PETG and using simplified 3D. I can explain to you. I printed it with a 3.5 layer, a 0.35 layer height, a 1 nozzle, 1.0 nozzle, and a zero point 0.9 width, and a 60% width on the infill. And that is the key when you're doing a large nozzle and a large print. Typically it will fail terribly, but the trick that I've learned is to greatly reduce the width of the infill. That way it allows it to print in a more normal manner. So a 60% infill, as opposed, with the 90% width of the perimeters, the outlines, and is, a 4 perimeter height, 4 layers on the top, and 3 on the bottom, and 2 perimeters for the outer. Like I said, it's a zero point 0.9, where if you were using a smaller nozzle size, of course you would do, normally you would do 3 perimeters, maybe even more. But because of the large nozzle and the large width, I just decided to go with the 2 perimeters. And it was like I said, the 60% infill on the width, and at 18% infill with a 65-degree angle max. And I'll show you that support. This is the support that printed with the model, and a three a 3-layer gap, so as to be able to remove it as easily as possible. Of course, the fan had to also be going because PETG adheres to itself extremely excruciatingly well, which is good, except for when you have supports, they do not want to come loose. So you can see this was the support. That is how it printed, and I printed it on my custom 600 by 600 3D printer. That's the support. That's how it printed, and I will show you the inside. To simplify things, I just used vinyl on the outer perimeters that will show once it's assembled. I just use vinyl. And this reflective surface is to maximum reflect the lighting effects that will be within using the LED. I'm going to show you the top half in just a moment. But yes, and I will show you the material I use for the reflective surface is this adhesive vinyl. This is what I use for the surface, and it's available on Amazon. This adhesive vinyl came in extremely handy for the reflective surface and for effects, for designs that I've added to the outer half. I'll show you in a moment. Like I said, this is the final iteration. because these clamps must have some flex so that when they're clamped on and they're tightened. And this is the material. This is inner tube rim strip that I will use to aid in the clamping, because I wanted to make the diameter large enough that it would not have to strain to get around the tube. So this will be used to aid in the grip once the clamps are tightened.